This issue is highlighted in Reacher's season finale, which boldly calls itself Flyboy. In order to prepare victims for helo-dropping, Langston chooses to have two of the former 110th Special Investigators, Carla Dixon and David O'Donnell, strapped to gurneys at the beginning of the episode. He has already used this technique to kill three other former 110th members, so we know this. Reacher is comparatively mobile, having given himself over to Langston and his goons as part of a last-ditch effort to release O'Donnell and Dixon. The only things bound are his hands. Your photos from surveillance don't do you justice. Finally able to see the man mountain with his unaided eyes, Langston growls. Despite having chained wrists, Reacher uses headbutts, kicks, and most crucially, his unwavering determination to defeat six goons. Before Reacher has done slamming these morons with both wrists bound behind his back, Langston finds out that, following the hospital brawl in the previous episode, only one body, that of Langston's goon, arrived at the morgue. Thus, when Reacher claimed that Neagley had also died at the hospital, he was lying to Langston. Neagley is known to be just beyond the fence, her sights set on the heads of two New Age security personnel. Let's give Neagley the grace of thinking that the two guards she shoots dead with rifles, and the other she shoots dead with a pistol a moment later, are actual full participants in the murderous plot to supply terrorists with New Age's missile guidance chips, rather than just regular people making $19 per hour to watch parking lots overnight, in order to save money for their children's college tuition. Reacher argues that if Langston kills him, he won't be able to find out where Neagley is, so Langston fires into the air to stop him from wailing on his minions. This is the point where the show seems to forget that Calvin France was tortured for days before being dropped, including having both of his legs shattered. It was his murder that initially prompted Neagley to call in Reacher for support. It is absurd that Langston would spare Reacher this treatment in favor of attempting to punch Neagley's whereabouts out of Reacher's stoic, but more bloodied face, if only because we finally need to find out whether or not Swan purposefully betrayed his former squadmates in his post-army existence, as the No. 2 security officer at New Age. It makes some sense that Langston would decide to give in to Reacher's question about Swan's whereabouts, even when the evidence of Swan's culpability got strong enough to convince everyone else. Reacher remained the lone special investigator who did not think Swan would do this. Reacher's trust is confirmed when Langston opens a desk drawer and extracts what's left of Swan. A cut fingertip and an excavated eyeball floating in formaldehyde are shown in the jar. All the tools Langton needs to circumvent the biometric security measures he set up himself, and to create a false signature of Swan's fingerprints and retinal scan on a number of incriminating papers long after Swan has been slain. Brilliant and disgusting. After shooting O'Donnell in the leg, Langston gives one of his yeggs the order to remove the bullet so that there's nothing for forensics to find, in an attempt to force Reacher to cooperate. Yes, in that manner, the conclusion drawn from the investigation into the deaths of O'Donnell, Dixon, and Reacher will be that they fell from a helicopter as a result of natural causes. I believe Mr. Langston is beginning to feel the strain of attempting to keep up a multinational arms-dealing conspiracy. The trio of unidentified private guards whom Senator Lavoy pledged to provide to Team Reacher in the last episode serve as Neagley's parachute backup. 1 Ranger, 2 SEALs, Lavoy said of them. These are the same individuals who, 3 episodes ago, escorted Reacher to a pathetic stand-in for the National Zoo. These 3 former soldiers coordinate their efforts with Neagley, who, despite her obvious preference for 90s rock, picks Jefferson Airplane's drug anthem White Rabbit as the song track for their assault on the building. As a result, Langston abandons his fellow soldiers and escapes into the helicopter that Dixon and O'Donnell have already been loaded into for the drop. Reacher uses a brad, a little office supply that was originally employed by societies in the 20th century to bind pages together, so that removal was easier than possible with staples, to break free from his handcuffs. The brad is hidden inside the sole of Reacher's boot. Those bracelets had to have been a custom order, since the first season made it quite evident that Reacher's tree trunk wrists could not fit normal police handcuffs. He heads for that helicopter, burning off his already impressive kill total before jumping up to grab one of the landing gear wheels as it takes off. Reacher's financial constraints have mostly been seen in the overtly Canadian feel of a season that is purportedly set in New York, Denver, Washington, D.C., and other American locales. However, the penny pinching in this episode and the first of the season becomes unavoidable when it comes to the helicopter stunts. It doesn't help that in 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout, the first screen Jack Reacher, a short, sub-6-foot Scientologist man, really did jump up, grab, and eventually climb a rope net dangling from a helicopter. It just doesn't have the same emotional effect as watching a blotchy digital double of Alan Ritchson cling to a digital chopper. Though the thug Langston sent along keeps beating Reacher's head. He does, dragging himself aboard and even managing to grasp the gurney with Dixon strapped to it with one arm once it rolls out the rear of the helicopter. The computer-generated action doesn't stop as Dixon manages to escape the gurney, scales it and Reacher like two ladders, takes out a knife that was stuck in Reacher's arm to prevent her from falling to her death, and uses it to quickly and easily kill the henchman. Reacher delivers a B-minus recontextualization of one of his bromides. In an investigation, assumptions kill, to Langston, as he had vowed to do. There are only 23 minutes remaining in the season, and our big enemy is gone. Reacher, Dixon, and O'Donnell instruct the helicopter pilot to transport them to the location where Langston was scheduled to meet arms dealer Ajari Mahmoud, despite their numerous severe injuries. It's a farmhouse. The truck driver who ambushed Neagley and Dixon in the 5th episode is with Mahmoud when he arrives. Neagley opens the door and kills the driver in the head as soon as the team replies. But the 4 special investigators who are still alive tell Mahmoud to come inside and survive long enough to start talking about how he's simply a supplier and doesn't care how the missiles he was going to sell are used. It's a relief that our 4 murderous heroes take Mahmoud offstage permanently, firing squad style, as actor Ferdinand Kingsley has failed miserably to make the character remotely intriguing. There are only 19 minutes remaining in the season, and somehow, our secondary malefactor has vanished. The New Age engineer Langston brought out to instruct Mahmoud how to install the stolen guidance chips into his arsenal of shoulder-fired missiles hidden in a barn on the property, which is being held by Team Reacher along with the helicopter pilot. In order for Neagley, who is amassing an incredible sociopathic murder total this episode, to prove that New Age's chips are effective, Reacher appears to accept their claims of innocence and permits them to depart on that chopper. The 3 former soldiers Lavoie sent along don't reveal their true colors until she blows up that helicopter while her allies share a beer can. She then tells us, very helpfully, that Lavoie gave them orders to kill every last special investigator after the New Age goons were eliminated. However, Reacher had always been in front of them. At this moment, a SWAT unit is accompanied by Homeland Security agents Reacher and O'Donnell, who were also seen in Episode 5. The 2 SEALs and 1 Ranger instantly give up, rather than trying to flee during another gunfight. It seems like everyone is exhausted. The Homeland Security official tells the group of 4 that they are free to leave after they have just killed 4 very evil people in cold blood at that exact location. He asks Reacher what happened to the $65 million in bearer bonds that were meant to be exchanged at that farmhouse, to which Reacher responds, "What money?" and leaves with a briefcase in a conspicuous place. I realize that I have no idea what bearer bonds worth $65 million look like. For all I know, that amount might just be 1 page of paper. But clutching a single sheet of paper and entering a diner in slow motion while listening to a song I can't pretend I recognized, Keep On Rissin', by The Crutch would not look badass for our bloodied, but unbowed quartet. The briefcase is better. Over breakfast, and despite Reacher's unpersuasive priests, the 4 decide that Reacher should decide how to allocate the $65 million they had just appropriated. Reacher asks Neagley, his regular gravy train, for 2 bits as a sign of taking on this obligation, because jukeboxes don't take bearer bonds. It appears that some establishments continue to accept tiny changes. Canada is one example. In order to set the stage for the montage of the many recipients of Reacher's vigilante hobo largesse, all of whom lost loved ones in this violent affair, he cranks up another unknown needle drop. Beat the Machine by Quaker City Nighthawks. Detective Russo's brother, France's widow, and Orozco's girlfriend seen leaving her bar job in an ostentatious-looking new convertible. The staff of an animal sanctuary is seen in this video appearing bewildered about how to manage an unexpectedly huge cash infusion from an unidentified donor. That evening, Reacher's followers congregated at Rockaway Beach, or so a sign says, to find out what rewards he had planned for each of them. Rich accounts have been set up in the names of O'Donnell's children to cover college and private school tuition. Reacher has set up 24-hour in-home medical care for Neagley's sick father. For Dixon, his new roommate, he has set up a Delaware LLC that will finance any venture she chooses to do, whether it be paint your own pots, forensic accounting, or private investigation. The episode ends with them taking another picture of the special investigators, who are now significantly fewer in number, enjoying another round of drinks around a vampire. All of them are drinking beer, with the exception of O'Donnell, who is continuously sipping from a fifth of Jim Beam. Let the man have a rest. He was only shot a day or two before. For the emotionally unstable Reacher, the final two tasks are more fulfilling. Come home with me. Dixon invites him, as they say their goodbyes in bed, the morning following their last night together. I sincerely hope you get to meet my folks. She gives him a mean pause before declaring, I'm fucking with you. Before she rides in the same taxi as O'Donnell to the airport, Reacher proposes another tryst. Reacher may possess a granite-like chest, but his heart isn't made of stone either. Using Lynyrd Skynyrd's Simple Man to highlight the final farewell between Reacher and Neagley, who has always been the closest of his old friends, the season finale finally finds its feet. She makes fun of him for not spending their fortune on anything more than a $980 Trailways bus pass that allows them unlimited travel for a year. After murdering so many people, Neagley has become more emotionally open and brave enough to tell Reacher that she can no longer stand to see him just once every few years when one of them is in danger. She questions whether he realizes that she and the other ex-special investigators are more than just his pals or his squad. Reacher remains silent. Only when a curious fellow passenger on the Trailways bus inquires about his recent activities does the large man respond, visiting family. I appreciate you viewing, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave a like.